The level of harm that a chemical compound or specific chemical combination can do to an organism is known as its toxicity. Today we will talk about toxicity is literal poison. If you want to know more about it, keep watching this video and subscribe our channel right away for more cool stuff to watch. Let's get started. The term toxicity can apply to both the impact on an entire organism, such as an animal, bacterium, or plant, as well as the impact on an organism's cell structure or an organ, such as the liver, hepatotoxicity. By extension, the phrase may be symbolically used to indicate the negative impacts on more substantial and intricate organizations, such as the family or society as a whole. In common usage, the word might occasionally be seen as being somewhat equivalent with poisoning. A key idea in toxicology is that a drug's effects depend on its dose. For example, water can cause water intoxication if consumed in excess, yet even a chemical as lethal as snake venom has a dose below which its effects are undetectable. Cross-species study presents challenges because toxicity is species-specific. In order to avoid using animals for testing, newer paradigms and measurements are being developed while keeping the idea of toxicity endpoints. Effects on the target can be used to gauge toxicity, organism, organ, tissue, or cell. A population-level toxicity metric is frequently used to link the likelihood of a result for a specific individual in a population, since different people typically respond to hazardous substances in various ways to the same dose. The LD50 is one such measurement. When such information is lacking, estimates are created by comparing observed exposures to similar harmful substances or species when such information does exist. Then safety factors are included to take into account data and evaluation process uncertainties. In order to account for interspecies differences between two mammals, one might assume that a dose of a toxic substance that is safe for laboratory rats would be 1/10 as safe for humans. If the data come from fish, one might use a factor of 100 to account for the greater difference between two chordate classes, fish and mammals. Similar to this, those who are thought to be more vulnerable to harmful effects, such as those who are pregnant or have specific conditions, may utilize an additional protective component. Or, a newly created and unstudied chemical that is thought to have effects that are extremely similar to those of another substance could be given an extra protection factor of 10 to allow for any changes in effects that are most likely considerably smaller. This strategy has been shown to be helpful in a wide range of applications, despite being quite approximative and using protection factors that are purposefully very cautious. If you're still there, give this video a big thumbs up. Let's continue. Assessing all aspects of the toxicity of agents that cause cancer presents additional challenges. This is due to the fact that it is not known for certain whether or not carcinogens have a minimal effective dose, or whether or not the risk is just too small to notice. In addition to this, it is likely that the development of the entire effect only requires a single cell to undergo the transformation into a cancer cell, the one-hit theory. It is much more difficult to determine the toxicity of chemical mixtures than it is to determine the toxicity of a pure chemical. This is due to the fact that each component of the mixture has its own level of toxicity, and the components may interact to produce increased or decreased effects. Gasoline, cigarette smoke, and industrial waste are among ingredients that frequently appear in combinations. Situations in which more than one sort of toxic entity is present, such as the discharge from a malfunctioning sewage treatment plant, which contains both chemical and biological agents, are even more complicated than those in which only one type of toxic entity is present. The species, organ, and dose-specific harmful effects of an investigational substance are revealed by the preclinical toxicity testing that is performed on a variety of biological systems. Observing the toxicity of substances can be done in three different ways: A. By analyzing the accidental exposures to a drug, B. By doing in vitro studies with cells or cell lines, and C. By performing in vivo exposures on experimental animals. The majority of the time, toxicity studies are carried out with the purpose of analyzing particular adverse events or endpoints, such as cancer, cardiotoxicity, and skin/eye irritation. Testing for toxicity helps calculate the no observed adverse effect level, NOAL, which is useful for clinical studies. Toxicity testing is also helpful. It is necessary to correctly classify and label substances in order to ensure that they are managed and regulated in an acceptable manner. Classification is decided by accepted testing measures or calculations, and it contains cutoff levels that have been determined by governments and scientists, for example, no observed adverse effect levels, threshold limit values, and tolerable daily intake levels. The use of pesticides serves as an example of a toxicity class system that has been around for a long time and has labels. The introduction of the globally harmonized system has started the process of uniting the various countries, despite the fact that many of these countries now have distinct legislation governing the sorts of tests, the number of tests, and the cutoff levels. Toxicities can be broken down into several categories, including those in which substances can kill the entire body, kill individual organs, inflict substantial or little harm, or cause cancer. These are the definitions of toxicity that are generally recognized across the world. The term "the type of toxicant" cannot be applied to anything that does not fit within the parameters of the definition. Even though the toxicity of their tools, methods, and materials was not always adequately recognized, hazards in the arts have been an issue for artists for centuries. This is despite the fact that the arts have been around for centuries. Lead and cadmium, in addition to a number of other poisonous elements, were frequently incorporated into the names of artists' oil paints and pigments. For instance, lead white and cadmium red are both examples of such names. Printmakers and other artists of the 20th century started to become aware of the toxic substances, toxic techniques, and toxic fumes that were present in glues, painting mediums, pigments, and solvents. Many of these products' labels did not indicate their toxicity in any way. One example of this would be the practice of using xylol to clean silkscreens. Painters started to become aware of the risks associated with breathing painting materials and thinners like turpentine while they worked. Printmaker Keith Howard published Non-Toxic Intaglio Printmaking in 1998. The book detailed 12 innovative intaglio-type printmaking techniques, such as photo etching, digital imaging, acrylic resist hand etching methods, and introducing a new method of non-toxic lithography. Howard published the book because he was aware of toxicants in studios and workshops. The toxicity of a substance can be affected by a wide variety of factors, including the route of administration, whether the toxicant is injected, ingested, or applied to the skin, the length of exposure, whether it is a one-time event or ongoing, the number of exposures, whether it is a single dose or multiple doses over time, the physical form of the toxicant, whether it is solid, liquid, or gas, the individual's genetic makeup, the individual's overall health. A single exposure to a toxic substance that has the potential to cause serious biological harm or even result in death. Acute exposures are typically defined as having a duration of no more than 1 day. Continuous contact with a harmful substance over a protracted period of time, which is often defined in months or years, can result in adverse effects that are irreversible. We really hope that you are able to obtain sufficient knowledge on the subject of today's discussion. You can also support us by sharing the material that we produce with the people you care about. See you at the next meeting.